The motorist held responsible for the death of a U.S. Senate candidate learns her fate today. Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava. We'll have that story in just a moment, but first, trouble for our Prince George's police officer. A county police officer accused of fabricating a story about a shooting in early February has been formally charged. Corporal Donald Taylor reported that a robbery suspect assaulted him at a Brentwood gas station, causing the officer to fire his weapon. But officials now say surveillance video from the scene tells a different story.
The evidence that our internal affairs detectives gathered at the scene of that police shooting contradicted the involved police officer's version of what happened. His police powers are suspended, and he's on an administrative duty assignment right now. He faces an additional administrative hearing next Monday or Tuesday, and that hearing will determine whether or not he remains on duty with or without pay.
The 13-year veteran faces several counts of misconduct, false statement, reckless endangerment, and second-degree assault. Well, a woman convicted of a hit-and-run crash that killed a former Green Party candidate is sentenced by a judge today. 43-year-old Christy Littleford of Upper Marlboro will spend 1 year in jail. 30-year-old Natasha Pettigrew was killed after being struck by a SUV that was driven by Littleford in September 2010. Pettigrew was training for a triathlon and riding her bicycle on Route 202 near Prince George's Community College. Littleford was found guilty in May of leaving the scene of the accident along with other charges.
Even when Miss Littleford is out, I'll still have to live a life without my daughter. And it all came about because, one, not taking responsibility, and we all have to take responsibilities. No one is perfect. So when you do something, you must stop, and in a case like this, render aid, call 911. Small victory. I have to admit that to see her being led out of the courtroom did validate that for the 2 years I've been fighting just to get justice.
It is possible that if Ms. Littleford had stayed to care for the victim, Ms. Pettigrew in this case, and called for help, she likely would not have been charged with any criminal offense.
Now, Kenneth Henry tells us that she plans to set up a scholarship fund in Natasha's name at her old high school, Elizabeth Seton. Meanwhile, a judge also sentences a woman convicted of masterminding an acid attack in Oxon Hill in March 2010. 31-year-old Tamara Jackson, seen here, will spend the next 15 years in jail. Prosecutors say Jackson asked her friend Takia Anderson to throw acid on Katrina Watts and her then 3-year-old daughter in an apartment parking lot.
Miss Watts had been in a relationship with Anthony Stewart, who was the father of the young child, Tanaya Stewart. They had been talking about reconciling. He, in order to do that, broke up with Tamara Jackson, and it's at that point that she made the decision to try to injure both Miss Watts and Miss Stewart, young Miss Stewart.
And we are happy to report that both mom and now her 6-year-old daughter are doing well. Well, if you've been outside, you know the hot weather returns. Prince George's officials are responding by designating several buildings as permanent cooling centers. Officials hope permanent sites will be helpful to people in need because they'll know in advance where to go and how to get relief. Meantime, they're reminding residents to check on their neighbors, especially the elderly and disabled.
Seniors are more acceptable to have heat-related illnesses. So we definitely want to check on not only our seniors and elderly, but also our young as well. To keep an eye on them, be a good neighbor, check on them, make sure they're okay, make sure they're not sitting in heat and humid conditions, and make sure they're in a cool air-conditioned spot.
Now, cooling centers open to the general public include the Oakcrest Community Center in Capitol Heights, Palmer Park in Landover, Suitland in Forestville, and others, which are open weekdays from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Well, gay rights activists and supporters of marriage equality will hold a national kiss-in today to protest Chick-fil-A owner David Cathy's opposition to same-sex unions. Scarlett White is standing by in Bowie with more.
And the Chick-fil-A saga continues with today's National Kiss-In Day. Now, this comes just 2 days after patrons showed up in droves to support David Cathey's comments about same-sex marriage. Now, today, to counter that, gay rights activists and same-sex marriage proponents are showing their support by hosting National Kiss-In Day at Chick-fil-A's throughout the country.
I support Chick-fil-A owner.
And did you hear about the kiss-in that's supposed to go on today?
Yes, I heard about it, but I really don't care. I think it's kind of disrespectful because it's bullying. I don't think you should be able to bully somebody for what they believe in.
I'm a Christian myself, and I do believe in what he says, and in the United States we're allowed to say what we say, want to say. I'm fully behind him 100%.
Well, I normally don't eat fast food, but I kind of agree with what the owner says, so now I'm making it a point to eat Chick-fil-A and Chick-fil-A only.
Just like any other large franchise restaurant or any other business, they should have an unbiased opinion on large issues like this because they have a variety of customers with different backgrounds. And I feel like on the subject of them kissing, it's a great idea to just protest and fight for what you believe in.
As far as relationships, if you feel that you belong with someone, then I believe you should do what you believe.
Now, will that stop you from eating at Chick-fil-A?
Will that stop me from eating at Chick-fil-A? Well, I just bought some food from Chick-fil-A today, so I guess the answer is no.
Now, I just visited the National Same-Sex Kiss Days Facebook page. It looks like the demonstrations are supposed to start tonight at 8 p.m., and so far, over 13,000 people are going to participate in today's Chick-fil-A Kiss-In. In Bowie, Scarlett White, CTV News.
Thank you, Scarlett, and you're watching CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava.